So your breath is showing you your triggers before they happen. And today we're going to learn how to recognize it and how you can see it. This is really one of the biggest reasons why I teach breath work. It is such an effective tool for not only showing you your triggers, but really integrating the underlying reasons and energy for why those triggers even occur. So let's just talk about breath work. For me, it's really been one of the most life-changing practices I've ever had. Before I found breath work, I had practiced yoga for probably a good 10 years, maybe even longer. And I was managing a yoga studio at the time. And this super cute guy came in, really, really cute. And he was like, yeah, I do this breath work thing. It's really cool. I want to do a workshop. I was like, sure, you're cute. Everybody will come, no problem. Little did I know that after that first breathwork session and workshop, I was totally changed. When right before the workshop, I was on the phone with my sister. I was talking with my sister, and then I was like, "Oh, I gotta go. I have this breathwork session." And then I called her on the way home, and she was like, "Whoa, what happened to you? You sound totally different." And from that point on, I knew that this was a practice that was going to really transform and change my life. And it has. Um, and so, how and why does it do that? We really, as humans, work with two kinds of life force energy. One is breath, and then one is sexual energy. So, these are, sexual energy is life creating energy, breathwork energy is life sustaining energy. So, we come into the world with breath, we leave the world with breath, right? And what happens in between is our life. And so, there's a deep relationship between how we live our life and how we breathe. And and being a breathwork practitioner has shown me this time and time and time again. You can just think about it as how life flows. So if breath is life force energy, how you breathe is really a reflection of how you live and what's going on in your life. And so, when do you hold your breath? Most people hold their breath when there's an experience of life that is too much. It is overwhelming. It is an experience they don't like. It is a traumatic experience, or it's an experience that's overwhelming in a positive way, just too much excitement, too much goodness. And your nervous system is overwhelmed with that level of stimulation. And so you suppress or repress it, or you shut it down. And we do that in part by holding our breath. And it's super easy to think about this on mundane things. So for me, I live in Houston, Texas. In August, it's super hot. Taking the smelly trash out is a very unpleasant experience. And so I used to have a very long driveway, and I would hold my breath the whole time down the driveway, taking that trash out. That's just a mundane example. I'm sure you have some of experiences that you just didn't want to take in, that smelt bad, that looked bad, that were just no fun, and you held your breath so you didn't have to. It also happens on more profound occasions. So, if you have to have a serious conversation with somebody, maybe as an employer, you're going to fire somebody, maybe as a friend, or you have to talk with a loved one and have a difficult conversation, chances are you're going to hold your breath before you have that conversation. Um, Oftentimes when we get really excited, so somebody throws you a surprise party, the first thing you see people do is hold their breath, right? Because it's like too much to take in. And so we suppress it or repress it. Um, these are normal things that we do. And so, how do we use breath? Well, if we can really learn to breathe consistently in the face of all experience, then we have a greater ability to take in all of life, right? So, what if you could be fully present in that surprise moment and take in and keep breathing? Feel all that love, feel all that excitement, feel all that fun, right? If you had that ability within your nervous system, within your energetic system, to breathe that all in, how much more fun would that be? What a richer life experience that would be. And the same is true of experiences that are less fun, right? If we can learn to be present and be aware of our breath. One, our breath will show us if there is trauma coming, because 9 times out of 10, we're going to stop breathing. Um, Two, we're also able to integrate and be present um, in that experience, so we have clarity and connection to choose the next best step, even when things don't look good or don't feel good. If we lose that breath, we lose that connection, so it doesn't happen. And one of the ways that I like to talk about how breath and the flow of life work is really thinking about a river. And this is helpful to think about how things happen over a whole lifetime and how our breath patterns affect us over a whole lifetime. If you think about a river, right, in the springtime, it is the flow through the river is thin, right? Like there just isn't a lot of water. There's been snow, there's ice. The flow of water is very thin. And it's winter, so stuff falls in the river, like um, leaves and rocks and dirt and things that have died and things that have ended fall into the river. And so that flow, right, is thin, and it gets even more tumultuous as more stuff falls in the river. So if you think about your breath, if your flow of breath is small or thin, or you breathe shallowly, and life happens, right? We have experiences that we can't process, right? And they just kind of pile up in your system, that they just keep piling in. With the river, as the rain falls, as the snow melts, the flow of the river increases. You just have more water coming through. And that increase of life force energy breaks up rocks, breaks down leaves, makes them into smaller, silty bits. And instead of the river being tumultuous, right, it breaks down that debris, it integrates those things that have gotten stuck, and it allows the river to flow smoothly and peacefully, right? We all see this happening, and you can see it out in nature. There are rivers, there's rocky places that move into smoother, easeful flow because the increased flow of water has been able to break down those rocks into sand and silt so that the river flows smoothly. This happens energetically in your system. If your breath doesn't have a full flow, right? If it's shallow, if it's light, if you hold it, things get stuck. And in our world, that usually looks like emotion. If you can't process what's coming through, usually that means you can't process the emotion or the experience that's coming through, and you hold your breath, then you suppress or repress it and it gets stuck. And so if you increase that flow through your system, so if you increase the amount of breath, right, that increased life force energy will then begin to integrate that energy. It will break up the stuckness, allow that emotion to release and integrate into your greater system and greater whole. So it allows you to have access to all of your energy, and it really supports the integration of the energies that you have suppressed or repressed. It happens every single time. As humans, where we get stuck is that as those things come up, it is hard for us when our nervous system isn't used to it and when we don't have safe spaces or experiences to integrate those energies, which is why breath practices are really helpful. Doing breath sessions, working with a breath coach, working in a breath community where you have supportive space to help you learn how to handle and integrate energy and emotion. But it is super effective and works really, really fast. And in our time of just kind of accelerated life and accelerated life experience, having a tool that's effective and fast is really helpful. Um, Particularly when there are emotions that feel like you are falling into a well you're never going to get out of. And that those are emotions like grief, those are emotions like anger, those are emotions like heartbreak, where, you know, you're so scared to experience them because you don't, your mind and your subconscious self can't see the way to the other side. It is so frightening to just be stuck in that well of emotion and not have confidence or experience of really allowing that emotion to release fully and completely and be on the other side of it. But breath gets you there every single time. And and it's why I continue to use it in almost every session. If you talk to any of my clients from whatever practice, everyone will tell you that I make them breathe. And in a yoga class, in a coaching session, in a tuning fork session, in a sound session, everybody hears me tell them to breathe, because the reality is if you aren't breathing, you probably aren't present, you aren't processing energy, and you're really not fully experiencing life, which is the whole point of being an embodied human. So where do you start? Because it's a whole practice, it's a whole journey. And so how do you take the first step? And the first step is really to begin to notice your breath and notice when you hold your breath or when you stop breathing and see if there's a pattern, number one. And two, can you begin to just take more easeful breaths? Can you just invite in a consistent breath and notice if that helps you? And if what you see is that you have a pattern of holding your breath in particular situations and just an easeful breath helps you, right? Maybe it doesn't resolve things fully, maybe it doesn't stop, but it is helpful, then you know that a breath practice is probably a practice that's going to help you resolve whatever that is fully and completely. And I have been practicing breath work for a very long time now, and I've been a breath coached for a very long time. I can guarantee you that it works. Um, I have seen people's lives absolutely transform in really, really phenomenal ways. It's a beautiful thing to watch and an even more exciting thing to experience. So I encourage you to just start to deepen your relationship with your breath and really begin to be able to breathe and be aware of your breath no matter what the situation is and no matter what's in front of you. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to find out more information about me or my offerings, please check out my website, danashamas.com. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. I send them out weekly with tips, insights, rituals, meditations, personal updates, special events, and offerings. So I know you don't want to miss out. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to connecting soon.